Soundwaves KPFK, the soundtrack of the World Wide Web, with your host, the Deacon of Speaking on the weekend, Mr. Abraham Beltran.
Ooh, Deacon.
Yes, indeed. To my left, Bad Mama Jamma, Miss Alice Russell. So, for those who don't know, she just released an album titled Pot of Gold on Little Poppet, which is her own label. And it's nuts and fantastic and every adjective you want to put to that. So Miss Russell was nice enough to bless us with a quick little interview, so we want to just take it back to the beginning to start. How did you first fall in love with music?
Basically, I grew up in a household full of music. It was mostly classical music. I played the cello, my sisters played, my dad played the piano, so I was always surrounded. But then listening to the radio, you know, and you're playing with your toys, is growing up about 7, 8, started recording stuff and hearing like James Brown and Cameo and all those artists in the charts. Do you know what I mean? There's like stuff like that in the charts when I was really small, like quite young. And I was just like, what is it? Ah! It's brilliant. And then later on getting into hip hop stuff and then listening to the places that have been, you know, the samples and going to where the original samples had come from. That led me off to a whole load of funk music and soul, and also just loving gospel music as well and all that sort of. Just, yeah, it just grew and grew.
I was kind of doing my homework and I found out that I guess your father played organ in the church,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, so I sang in the church choir,
first
yeah.
Started. Speaking of soul, because you talked about kind of hip-hop and breaking down the samples and going beyond, to me it's always seemed like, and we talk about this all the time, the British appreciation of just soul and funk and black music as a whole is so much deeper and more profound than it is in the States. Why do you think that is?
Do you know, it really doesn't make sense to me. It makes sense that all music, because it travels wherever it needs to in the world, and as soon as you hear a music that's fantastic or very full of feeling and emotion as a human, you're just going to like it, wherever it's from. Because I love fado, I love Brazilian music, you know, I love so many different genres. I really can't explain that it seems to have had to go over and then come back.
Would you kind of agree that
sometimes I think it's still it's still differently here, but I think it's such a massive country. I think when it got a bit more mainstream in the UK, it comes out quicker. Whereas I suppose over here, I just can't explain it. No.
Because I mean, really, when you have bands like Jamiroquai and I mean the list goes on and on. It seems like, and your sound, of course, like you guys really do your homework. I mean, like the sound is proper. It's not plastic. It's like a lot of work has gone into it. Do you think that's kind of because you are exposed to it at a younger age in the UK, or?
Do you know, I can't explain. All I can explain from my point of view, and also TMG, because we wrote it together and he produced it, is just you just soak up what you love, and whatever you've listened to and gone really, you know, gone digging for records and found stuff that you love, you just soak it up, and that's my only explanation for the sound coming out like that. And do you know what I mean?
That makes sense.
But I can't, yeah. I can never understand that as well. And also, I always think so many genres are always mixed up.
True.
Whereas over here, I feel like there's a lot more separation with the genres and things.
And it seems like there's more of a reluctance to kind of transgress those boundaries. Like, I don't want to do an electronic, I don't want to do a funk.
Whereas for me, it makes sense to just mesh it all up. Music's music, you know, and it makes sense that it's all come from the same place. If you want to trace it right back to the beginning of history, it's all come from, you know. So mesh it up again. There's no, you know, mix it up.
Now, this is your 4th album, right?
Yeah. The second proper album. The other ones were sort of compilations of
because there was
gatherings.
Your first was a compilation of old stuff, and then with some new material, and then there was My Favorite Letters, I think, right?
Which I did with TMG.
And then there was
Monkamoon 2, which was again remixes, and also we did some recordings with the band in the UK, just live sort of.
And then Pot of Gold, which is on your label,
Little Poppet, and then we've licensed it to 6 Degrees in the US.
And Jane, thank you, Jane, was the one that set this
Jane.
up. What was the impetus behind making your own label and kind of going that route?
Basically, I've been with True Thoughts, which is also a small label. But even small labels have to own your copyright and still have to make their way. And I think as an artist in an ever-changing musical world, and the way the business is going now, I just think it makes sense to own your own copyright and get down and do it yourself, you know. And I think because the internet and everything, it is becoming easier for you to get out there and do all that stuff. And the record companies are beginning to get a bit more you know, a bit worried, I think.
When it seems like no one's gonna look out for your best interest more than yourself.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot harder work, but it's worth it.
Was there any significance behind the title Little Poppet, or the name of the label?
I basically call everyone Little Poppets.
Oh.
Poppet's like a little sort of, like little putty.
Oh, like Hey Sweetie? That
yeah,
kind of...
it is. It's like a little cute poppet. Oh.
So the music is your
yeah,
little
like
poppet?
little babies, yeah.